right about time to bring you up to speed what's happening globally and in Nigeria. We begin with Ukraine's control of vast Russian land displaces thousands. FBI investigates claims Iran hacked Trump campaign. Hundreds of Rohingya killed in drone strikes amid fears. UK's Prime Minister Starmer urges Iran to avoid attacking Israel and must aid Trump in stopping Harris's surge. On Russia-Ukraine war, Vladimir Putin, Russian president, vowed to kick the enemy out of his country's territory after it emerged that Ukrainian troops were in control of dozens of Russian villages and huge swaths of land a week into Kyiv's surprise cross-border incursion. On Monday, the scale of the incursion became clearer when Putin held a meeting with local officials from the border regions, as well as some of Russia's top security, government and law enforcement personnel. The acting head of the Kursk region, Alexei Smirnov, told Putin that 28 settlements in his region were now under Ukrainian control, adding that Ukrainian troops had managed to advance some 7.5 miles, 12 kilometers into the territory across a 25-mile, 40-kilometer wide stretch of the border. Meanwhile, Alexander Syrsky, the Ukrainian military chief, said on Monday that some 386 square miles, 1,000 square kilometers of Russian territory were now under Ukrainian control. Putin said the incursion was an attempt by Ukraine to improve its negotiation position. Over the course of the war, Russia has been continually accused of aiming Ukrainian civilians and civilian infrastructure by Kyiv, its Western allies, and by international bodies, including the International Criminal Court and the United Nations. Russia has denied the accusations despite evidence. The Russian leader went on to tell his security chiefs to expel the Ukrainian forces. The main task is certainly before the Ministry of Defense to squeeze out and knock out the enemy from our territories and together with the Border Guard Service ensure reliable protection of the state border. The Ukrainian advances have stoked a large wave of evacuations from the border regions. Smirnov said 180,000 people had been told to evacuate, and that 121,000 have left already. Vyacheslav Gladkov, the governor of the neighboring Belgorod region in southern Russia, said people living in the Krasnoyarsky district were being moved to safer places. Around 11,000 residents from Krasnoyarsky district were evacuated. The head of the district administration, Andrei Miskov, said late on Monday. On U.S. 2024 election, the FBI has opened a probe into allegations from the Trump campaign that it was aimed by hackers working for the Iranian government. We can confirm that the FBI is investigating the matter, the agency said in a short statement on Monday, without specifically naming the former president or Iran. The Trump campaign spokesperson said, according to reports, that the documents were illegally obtained by foreign sources hostile to the United States. Iranian officials have denied any link to the hack, and the United States government has not legally accused Iran. According to reports citing people familiar with the investigation, the FBI is also looking into whether Iranian hackers aimed the Joe Biden-Kamala Harris campaign. The Trump campaign statement came one day after Microsoft released a report indicating that Iranian hackers targeted the campaign of an unnamed U.S. presidential candidate in June. Microsoft Threat Analysis Center MTAC said the campaign was set to a spear-phishing email, a message designed to look trustworthy in order to get the target to click on a malicious link. Trump on Saturday said the hackers were only able to get public available information. The FBI started the probe in early summer after both campaigns experienced attempted phishing schemes, the report said. According to more reports, 3 staff members of the Biden-Harris campaign were also targeted by phishing emails in the days before President Joe Biden announced that he was quitting the race. According to report, a Harris campaign spokesperson said in a statement to the media that the campaign vigilantly monitors and protects against cyber threats, and we are not aware of any security breaches of our systems. According to more reports, the FBI investigation into the hacking attempts was first opened in June. Adam Schiff, Democratic congressman, was among many lawmakers calling for the FBI to disclose what it knows about the hacking attempts. He said the U.S. intelligence community moved much too slow to properly identify the hacking and dumping scheme carried out by Russia in 2016 and should act quickly here. Now, renewed fears of ethnic cleansing against the stateless Rohingya Muslim community are rising after reports that hundreds of people, including women and children, were killed by drone strikes while fleeing violence in Myanmar's western Rakhine state last week. Videos shared extensively on social media showed dozens of bodies scattered across the muddy banks of the Nath River that separates Myanmar from Bangladesh. Witnesses and Rohingya activists said, according to reports, that a series of drone strikes on August 5th hit civilians fleeing fighting and violence in the villages in Mogdal, northern Rakhine. The displaced families had been waiting to cross the river to Bangladesh at the time of the attack, they said. Unconfirmed reports put the death toll at about 200 people, which, if confirmed, will be one of the deadliest attacks against civilians in Myanmar's 3-year civil war, a conflict that broke out following the military's 2021 coup. Witnesses and activists claim the Arakan Army AA, a powerful ethnic armed group fighting the Myanmar military, were responsible for last Monday's attacks on the Rohingya. The AA has denied involvement, saying in a statement that these deaths did not occur in areas under our control and are not connected to our organization. But it added that it's carrying out an offensive near Mongdo to completely capture remaining military camps and had been warning civilians since June 16th to evacuate Mongdo as quickly as possible. The AA said it was saddened to learn that Rohingya fleeing the town had reportedly been killed by small arms fire, bombings, drownings, airstrikes, or massive explosions near the coast of Mongdo, causing great distress, and it blamed the deaths of the Myanmar military and allied Rohingya armed groups. Myanmar's military junta, however, blamed the AA for the attacks in Mongdo in a report that claimed AA terrorists fired at townships, wards, and villages in Rakhine State using heavy weapons and drones and tortured the villagers. Myanmar's Rohingya have long suffered mass atrocities and forced displacement that several, including United Nations experts, consider to be genocide committed by the country's military. The newest violence has echoes of attacks on the Rohingya in 2016 and 2017 when Myanmar's military launched a brutal campaign of killing, rape and arson that is presently subject to a genocide probe at the International Court of Justice. Keir Starmer, United Kingdom Prime Minister, has urged Iran to refrain from attacking Israel during a phone call with Iran's new president. Keir told Masoud Pezeshkian there was a serious risk of miscalculation and now was the time for calm and careful consideration, reports said. It is the first call between a UK Prime Minister and an Iranian president since March 2021 when ex-British leader Boris Johnson spoke to Hassan Rouhani. Reports of the 30-minute discussion came as the United Kingdom issued a joint statement with the US, France, Italy and Germany, urging Iran to end its threats of an attack on Israel. They called on Iran to stand down its ongoing threats of a military attack against Israel and deliberated the dire consequences for regional security should such an attack take place. The leaders, who spoke together by phone, also expressed their support for the defense of Israel against Iranian aggression and against attacks by Iran-backed terrorist groups. Fears of a broader conflict in the Middle East have been escalating following the recent assassination of senior Hezbollah and Hamas leaders. The US on Sunday confirmed it had sent a guided missile submarine to the region in reaction to these concerns. The submarine can carry up to 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles, which are used to strike land targets. It had also ordered the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, which is carrying F-35C fighter jets, to accelerate its journey there. The ship was already on its way to replace another U.S. ship in the region. John Kirby, White House National Security Council spokesperson, later said the U.S. shared Israel's worries that it was increasingly likely that there will be an attack by Iran or its proxies, and perhaps in the coming days. Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, a spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces IDF, said that the country took the threat of its enemies seriously and that Israel was at peak preparedness for attack and defense. On Monday, Downing Street also said Keir Starmer had told Pezeshkian he was deeply concerned by the situation in the region and called on all parties to de-escalate and avoid further regional confrontation. Iran blames Israel for the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh on their soil late last month and has vowed to punish it. Israel, which is presently engaged in a war trying to annihilate the group in Gaza, has not commented but is widely believed to have been behind the killing. Last week, Iran's acting foreign minister said the country will respond to the killing of Haniyeh at the right time in the appropriate manner. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, a group of states with Muslim-majority populations, said it held Israel fully responsible for the attack, which it called a serious infringement of Iran's sovereignty. Again, on US 2024 election, the world's richest man and its once and possibly future most powerful man agreed on almost everything. On Monday night, tech titan Elon Musk threw open his X platform, offering Donald Trump a pipeline free of fact checks for his falsehood, conspiracy theories and extremism as he attempts to slow the rise of Democratic nominee Kamala Harris. The chat represented yet another extraordinary chapter in a presidential campaign that has resisted logic, with its turning twists in recent weeks, including an assassination attempt against Trump and President Joe Biden's ending of his re-election bid. The ex-president has been struggling to cope with the surge in stats by the new Democratic nominee. At times during the expansive chat, Musk seemed to be using the power of his profile and platform to coach Trump on how to mount a better argument against Harris. Musk agreed with Trump that Harris was a radical leftist and flattered his guest by suggesting that he was strong and his Democratic opponents were weak. Musk has already endorsed Trump, and he was leaving no doubt on Monday night that he wants to see him win a second term. "You are the path to prosperity, and I think Kamala is the opposite," he told Trump. Musk, who has huge business interests in securing favorable treatment from the next administration, provided the Republican nominee an audience of at least 1.3 million concurrent listeners at the worst moment of his campaign so far, and he projected at least 100 million people would consume the content in the coming days. On more stories on climate crisis, one dead as wildfires sweep Athens suburbs. On Monday, one person has died as fierce wildfires spread in the suburbs of Athens in Greece. Thousands of people have been evacuated after firefighters cautioned that homes, businesses and schools were under threat, with fires expected to continue into Tuesday. Fire service spokesperson Colonel Vasilios Vathrakoshigiannis said while there was no longer a single active fire front in the northeastern Attica region, which includes parts of Athens, there were still many active localized blazes, mostly around the towns of Marathon and Penteli. In a statement released on Monday evening, he added that conditions for new fires remain dangerous not only on Tuesday, but also for further into the week. Over 700 firefighters, 199 fire engines and 35 water-bombing aircraft have been involved in efforts to extinguish the fires, which first broke out on Sunday afternoon around 35 kilometers 22 miles north of the Greek capital. Colonel Vathrakoshigiannis said 2 firefighters had received treatment for burns while fighting the blazes. Fires broke out in 40 different locations on Monday, and that some areas saw flames as high as 25 meters, 82 feet, officials said. It's unprecedented since people in Athens wore face masks to protect themselves from the smoke, which blew into the city. Aircraft were forced to land as night set in on Monday, but ground operations continued throughout the night. On Monday evening, Greece's National Observatory said satellite images showed that by noon local time, the fire had already affected 100,000 acres, that's 405 square kilometers or 156 square miles of land. In Penteli, a wooded hilly region, 3 hospitals had to be evacuated. On one of the sites of the National Observatory was at one stage feared to be under threat. The blaze also covered a timber factory, and elsewhere in the area, a number of explosions were heard, most likely from fuel tanks and residential gas cylinders. Despite the danger, some Penteli residents chose to stay near their homes and try to put out pockets of fire using horses or tree branches. European nations have announced aid for Greece after its government activated the EU's mutual civil protection mechanism. Greece has just experienced its hottest June and July on record. Climate change surges the rates of the hot, dry weather that is likely to fuel wildfires. The world has already warmed by about 1.1 degrees Celsius since the industrial era started, and temperatures will keep surging unless governments around the world make steep cuts to emissions. Now in African scenes, Senegal Prime Minister makes first visit to Mali since election. Ousmane Sonko, Senegalese Prime Minister, visited Mali for the first time since his political party came to power in March 2024 presidential polls. Sonko's visit is a part of the diplomatic efforts led by Senegal to convince junta rule Mali to return to Economic Community of West African State ECOWAS, a 15-nation regional bloc created in 1975. Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso have left ECOWAS after the military takeovers fractured their ties with West African neighbors. Following a meeting with Colonel Assimi Goïta, interim president of Mali, Sonko said the West African nations must set differences aside to recreate a Malian empire that stretched from here to Senegal, Ghana and everywhere in between. The juntas of Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso in January said that instead of aiding the countries fight the insecurity threat facing them, ECOWAS enforced illegitimate, inhumane and irresponsible sanctions when they staged the coups to take their destiny into their own hands. ECOWAS has been leading efforts to return civilian rule to the coup-hit countries, pressuring the juntas with sanctions and rejecting lengthy transitionable timetables. It was the first time in the bloc's closely 50 years of existence that its members were withdrawing in such a manner. The three nations form an alternative union called the Alliance of Sahel States. Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, who visited Mali in May, is also tasked with the huge challenge of reuniting a weakened regional bloc. Still ahead, Sudan talks continue despite army's absence, U.S. officials says. Yesterday, the U.S. Special Envoy for Sudan insisted that discussions intended at creating peace in Sudan will go ahead, despite the fact that Sudan's military has yet to confirm its participation. In April last year, the northeastern African nation jumped into chaos when tensions between the military and a notorious paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces (RSF), turned into open fighting in the capital, Khartoum, before spreading across the country. The western region of Darfur has seen most of the most devastating bouts of fighting. Discussions brokered by the United States and Saudi Arabia are due to begin on Wednesday. The RSF has confirmed it will attend. A Sudanese government delegation met over the weekend with U.S. officials in the Saudi coastal city of Jeddah in an effort to have the military attend Wednesday, but no breakthrough was achieved. Tom Perolo, the U.S. Special Envoy for Sudan, said in Geneva on Monday that we will move forward with this event this week, and that has been made clear to the parties. We could do more together if SAF commits to arriving with a kind of delegation that can make discussions. The United Nations, African Union, neighboring Egypt and the United Arab Emirates, which has been accused of supporting the RSF with weapons, a claim UAE officials have denied, are expected to attend the talks as observers. The United Nations Migration Agency said on Monday that the humanitarian crisis in Sudan is at a catastrophic breaking point. The conflict has killed thousands of people and plunged several into starvations. Its atrocities include mass rape and ethnically motivated killings that result in war crimes and crimes against humanity, according to the United Nations and international rights groups. Sudan's war has created the world's largest displacement crunch. Over 10.7 million people have been forced to flee their homes since fighting began. According to the International Organization for Migration, over 2 million of those fled to neighboring countries. Take a short break, and when we come back, stories from Nigeria. Don't go anywhere. You're welcome back. Now, stories from Nigeria. Let's begin with Tinubu launches 30 CNG buses to ease transportation. Yesterday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu inaugurated 30 compressed natural gas CNG powered buses at the State House in Abuja, meant to ease the burden of transportation on the citizens brought about by the removal of fuel subsidy. This was as the chairman of Depot and Petroleum Product Marketers Association of Nigeria, DAPMAN, Winifred Apani, described the official launch of the buses as a game changer for the transport sector. Tinubu had assured that the buses will aid ease transportation challenges faced by Nigerians, particularly in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. 30 buses were acquired from Innocent Motors, an indigenous vehicle manufacturing firm, in the first phase of procurement. At the symbolic ceremony performed at the State House in Abuja, Tinubu revealed that commercial vehicles in Nigeria make up around 80% of the nation's petrol consumption, costing the country trillions of naira monthly. 5 of the 30 CNG buses were driven to the forecourt of the presidential villa, where the president formally unveiled them for public use. Also speaking, Manuela Arukwe, the managing director of NNPC Foundation, said NNPC contributed 10 of the 30 buses presented by DAPMAN to the president. And finally, on the news, federal government governors agree on 30-month deal for local government allocations. According to reports, the federal government and state governors may have agreed to a 3-month moratorium on local government autonomy over fears arising from its effect on salary payments and operational viability. The development means local governments may wait till October before the implementation of the law in the direct payment into the respective accounts. On July 11, 2024, the Supreme Court gave a landmark judgment affirming the financial autonomy of the 774 local government areas in the country and ruled that governors could no longer control funds intended for the councils. The Apex Court also directed the Accountant General of the Federation to pay local government allocations directly to the account, as it declared the non-remittance of funds by the 36 states unconstitutional. Under ex-President Muhammadu Buhari, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit issued a regulation effective from June 1, 2019, which barred transactions on state and local government joint accounts. Funds were sent directly to the accounts of the local government. It also limited cash withdrawals from local government accounts to a maximum amount of 500,000 per day, with penalties for banks that fail to comply. The Nigerian governors, under the aegis of the Nigerian Governors Forum, kicked against this regulation, and the NFIU eventually capitulated. The status quo was maintained until May 2024, when the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemisan, filed suit marked SC-CV-343-2024 at the Supreme Court to strengthen the autonomy of the local government areas as guaranteed by the Constitution. It sought to prevent state governors from unilaterally dissolving democratically elected local government councils and establishing caretaker committees, actions that violate constitutional provisions. The AGF argued that the Constitution mandates a democratically elected local government system and does not allow alternative governance structure. The suit also prayed that the funds from the Federation account be channeled directly to local government, bypassing the allegedly unlawful joint accounts managed by state governors. The federal government also sought an injunction to stop governors and their agents from receiving or spending local government funds without a democratically elected local government system in place. It contended that the governor's failure to establish such a system constitutes a deliberate subversion of the 1999 Constitution. The Supreme Court had heard parties to the case on June 13th, with the state government, through their respective attorneys general, opposing the suit. That was the prelude to the Supreme Court judgment of last Thursday, July 11th, 2024, which has now affirmed the financial autonomy of Nigeria's 774 local government areas. Another look at the top stories. Ukraine claims control of vast Russian land displaces thousands. FBI investigates claims Iran hacked Trump campaign. Hundreds of Rohingya killed in drone strikes amid fears. UK's Prime Minister Starmer urged Iran to avoid attacking Israel. and must aid Trump in stopping Harris's surge. And that's all on the news. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.